Welcome to Ancient Geeks, a podcast from a couple of geeks of a certain age. We look at the development of geek culture through the lenses of our youth and is informed by decades of geekery. We were geek before it was chic, and our podcast is a constant blur of plates spinning and knives on the floor. I'm your co-host, Stephen Taylor.
And I'm your time grappler, Tom Grant.
Excellent. So this episode is a continuation of our discussion of Andor from the perspective of original Star Wars fans. We'll start with a programming note. In episode 1, last week's episode, we promised a 2-parter, but we decided in the middle of all this that it's in fact a 3-parter. So adjust your chronometers accordingly as we move into our discussion of Andor. In this episode this week, we're going to be talking about season 2 of Andor before moving on to Rogue One and some big themes. But before we do that, let's review This Week in Geekery. Tom, what are you up to these days?
Well, I just got from Humble Bundle a bundle of everything Usagi Yojimbo, the really great comic series. It has anthropomorphic animals, which usually is a turnoff for me, but the series is so good and uses that so well that I'm a big fan, and so I'm going to be able to kind of fill in some gaps that I haven't read. How about you?
What's your view of anthropomorphic vegetables?
They're Satan's creation on Earth. They are the abominations that must be
lost in space. Anyway,
that must be burned and then consumed
and sautéed. Okay,
yes.
Yeah. So, I in anticipation of a future episode, in anticipation of the new Fantastic Four movie this summer, I've been looking at some FF stories. John Byrne's run, and also just looking at Galactus in anticipation of discussing that in the future. So there's plenty there to look at. So. We'll ask the theme music question. So we were Neomosing it up last week. What are we doing this week?
I'm going to pick the song "We Are Gorman" that they sing in.
Dun 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 dun.
No, that's not.
Sorry. I'm sorry. That's a good one.
Yeah. How about you?
That's a good one. So I'll just pick the ever-evolving Andor main theme, which if you pay attention, like you have to pay attention to the show. It is not the exact, it changes its arrangement over the course of the show. Anyway, in the season even.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So having gone through these major narrative arcs in season 1, we're going to move on now to talk about season 2. So season 2 starts out in a 3-episode arc where the following things happen. Cassian steals a TIE fighter Avenger prototype of some kind, gets marooned for a while, and what we find out is Yavin 4 being held prisoner by theoretically allies, a rebel group called the Maya Pei Brigade. We see Bix and Brasso and B2 Emo on what I called yesterday the Wheat Planet, but it's Mina Rao. I've learned my planets. And there's a whole story about basically the Imperials looking for visas. It's an illegal immigrant story,
right?
An agricultural worker story. And also results in Bix being attacked by an Imperial who wants to rape her. We get the wedding of Mon Mothma's daughter to the other family, again, whose name I've forgotten that dude's name. It's something with an S.
Doesn't matter.
Skulden, the Skulden family. Davos Skulden.
Mm-hmm.
Take Halmo becoming a dude defeat of Clay who wants a bribe not to reveal what Mon Mothma's been up to.
Mm-hmm. It becomes a risk.
It becomes a risk.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll go ahead and say it now so I don't forget, right? This is a great bit at the wedding where Kalmo is trying to put the pressure on Mothma. Luthen is there because he's been brought a gift for the wedding that Skulden had bought. And this fantastic interchange, right? Where Luthen says, to Mothma, you need to be protected. And Mothma says, I'm not sure what you're saying. And Luthen says, how nice for you, which is just fantastic.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I was going to say, this sideways, but just how good Skarsgård was in this role. He was fantastic. That moment, it's one of those moments, a moment from the first season that I think it's when I'm like, oh, it's such a small thing. It's the first time he puts on the wig and the cape, and his demeanor changes so subtly, but so obvious what was going on. It was just brilliant.
Yeah, he's kind of settling into character.
Yes.
He's like an actor who's
Yes.
rehearsing his lines before going on stage. I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to bring that up too.
It's
It's
just
again one of these things you have to be paying attention to the show.
yes, exactly. If you're looking at your phone at that point, you missed a really important thing. But I mean,
Yeah,
Skarsgård, and then there's two characters, right? There's Luthen, real Luthen,
right.
and then there's the dealer Luthen, the art dealer,
Hmm.
the some. It's just fantastic. I love the bit where the first time again in season one, where Mothma comes to his shop and they're talking,
Hmm.
and he's just also like, oh, we're so patient here. It's like a temple of serenity here, all this business.
Yeah,
Anyway, so what else is going on in this set of episodes? We also get the Deidre Cyril Edie dinner, which was something else.
yeah.
Where do you want to of those storylines? What do you want to talk about first?
God, there's so much. Well, I just want to say, so we haven't talked a lot about Mon Mothma, but okay, so you it's clear here's this extremely beautiful world that she occupies as one of
Yes,
the elite of
yes,
the galaxy. Her dress is beautiful, everybody's clothes are beautiful, the locations they're in are beautiful, not just where the wedding is taking place, but also the Imperial Senate that we see, is an incredible building. Uh, but there's all these sort of grubby things going on within it,
yes,
the
yes,
arranged marriage and
yes.
Tay trying to blackmail her
Hmm.
and eventually he has to be murdered.
Yes,
Another thing that you have to be paying attention to catch what's going to happen to him.
yes, yes.
Um, she's really kind of very conflicted. She gets into that sort of Dionysian dance, at
Oh
the
yeah,
at
at
the
the end,
wedding.
yeah. That's a great
That's
scene.
a really sad moment.
Oh, I mean, so there's the whole storyline that the arranged marriage is taking place. They're on Chandrilla, which is their home world. It is
Yeah.
a beautiful location. It's opulent. In fact, it's part of Take Home's part. Like, oh, gee, everyone's having like it's a great time, but no one's taking care of me,
Right.
kind of thing. And then Monmouth is definitely conflicted. She clearly does not like this arranged marriage thing. Her marriage is not a happy marriage. And there's this terrible scene, right, where she and the daughter are in the antechamber about to go out to the ceremony.
Hmm.
And Mothma says something about, well, when I did this, my mother was drunk and I didn't understand what was going on. I was mad at her. And, you don't have to do this. And the daughter, it just says, I wish you were drunk.
Yeah.
It's just a devastating scene. Then they go through all the ritual and the marriage takes place. And then, yeah, eventually, the thing with Tay happens and it does end with this sort of alcohol fueled dance scene at the end. Two
Yeah.
Neomos, no, in fact.
I know. Here it is again.
But she's taking shots and going crazy because she's just can't handle what's going on. It's a really
Yeah.
powerful sequence of events.
Yeah, I think this is also maybe a good point to bring in a couple of characters we haven't talked about as much, Vel and Cinta. I mean, we talked a
Yes.
little bit about Vel with the heist, but
Hmm.
so uh, they're constants in all of this. They're going to have a pretty big role in the season. Sorry, episode 7 through 9
Hmm.
of season two. But they're an interesting couple.
Yes.
So we meet Vel originally, and we can kind of see that she puts on this facade of being a very hard person, but then she
Right.
does have that moment at the dam where she doesn't want to rappel down it, and
Right.
Cinta has to kind of talk her back into it. In this episode, there's clear something's going on. Anyway, so they seem to complement each other in an interesting
Yes.
way. Cinta is a stronger person in some ways that helps Vel out a lot. Even though Vel seems to be a slightly more senior person
Yes.
in the whole Luthen network. Anyway, when writing is good,
Yes.
you don't have to spell things out too much. Like as you said with the comment, that Mon Mothma's daughter made about "I wish you were drunk."
Yes.
There's a whole lot behind that, that is unsaid. At that one very short line. And here with like Cinta and Vel, you've got a good writer or writers. There's not a lot you need to spell out about them. I mean, it's like in art, that I like Japanese art a lot, and a lot of really good Japanese art has a very minimal number of strokes to create
Hmm.
something beautiful, right? And it's not a stick figure, it's not artless, and it just I think their relationship between Cinta and Vel is one of those really artful, minimalist kinds of things where you don't have to know everything. To understand something important about that relationship and to feel bad about what happens later.
That's right. No, I think, in fact, in season one, it is not at all spelled out any kind of like, oh, they're a couple. It's just you
Oh,
kind of
thank God.
figure it out.
Yeah.
It becomes quite confirmed later in season two. But what I also thought, well, because Vela is Mon Mothma's cousin, so she's part of the elite too.
Yeah.
Um, so, and what I think is interesting, though, about that those two as a couple is it showed Cinta was like totally dedicated to the rebellion to the point of that was more important than anything else.
Right.
And Vel is still struggling with what that means because she wants to have a relationship with Cinta and she wants that to have some priority. But Cinta like
Hmm.
disappears and she doesn't know where she is.
Right.
And in fact, she's the one that almost only takes out Take Homo because she's there acting as the driver.
Hmm.
And they see one another on Chandrila, but they don't speak. Um, so yeah, I think but I thought it was an interesting attempt, or not attempt. It was an interesting part of the story to show the various costs and the various levels of dedication these people have. And one of the things that showed us such a great job of, which we've already touched on, is just showing the different kinds of rebels and how it all kind of works together.
Yeah.
Um,
So then there's that rebel faction which breaks up into two factions.
yeah, the
And
Maya Pay Brigade. So we got Cassian steals a TIE
yeah.
fighter. Let's talk about that for a
Mm-hmm.
minute. One, I love the fact that he gets the TIE fighter. It ends up not being the one he trained on. We find out later,
Right.
and he can't fly it at first.
Yeah. He's crashing all over the
It's just
place.
it's a
Yeah.
great scene.
Yeah. It's just it's designed almost to be difficult to fly,
Yeah.
as the others find out in the Abraham Lincoln Brigade or whatever the name of that was.
Maya Pay. Come on, Tom.
Oh,
Get your
okay.
names.
Yeah.
Um, never mind. I was going to make a Savage Curtain joke, but I won't. I won't do that.
Okay.
But yeah, so he gets to the rendezvous. They've actually killed his contact who's supposed to take the fighter because they
Yeah.
don't realize who he is.
Hmm.
And there's a great part where he points when Cassian figures out who they are, and like, we've been supplying you people,
Yes.
but they don't. They just and they're basically a bunch of dunderheads. I mean,
Yeah, they're
I
on,
can,
on on the left-hand side of the bell curve of rebel groups.
yeah, maybe ideologically and on the intelligence scale.
Oh yeah.
They're on they're a tail, but they start fighting because they don't have a pilot, they don't have a ship, and they can't
Right.
all get in the fighter, so they've got to make a deal
Right.
about who
They've
leaves.
been abandoned by
Yeah,
somebody. Yeah.
and so they're all basically fighting over who gets to leave first because they don't
Hmm.
believe anybody's going to come back. And it breaks into these two groups, one of which has the pilot and one of which has the TIE fighter.
Right.
And this is a great scene when he realizes they're trying to like use ropes to move the TIE fighter so
Yeah.
they can fire the other ship. And then I don't know if can you think of another show in which some version of rock paper scissors was the
Oh
method
yeah. Oh,
of
that was hysterical.
and I found
And it doesn't work, right?
right, right, right. I heard an interview with Tony Gilroy. He made up the rules of that game,
Oh, okay.
including whatever variation they say they're going to play by, because they say something like,
Yeah.
Rundo's rules or whatever they say. I don't remember what they said, but it's like the very specific version of this game.
And it's just like dumb guys in their
Mm.
20s,
Hmm.
which you imagine like rebel groups, whether it's
Oh,
in the Spanish Civil War or, in the Star Wars universe, you're going to have a lot of dumb guys in their 20s.
yes, absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
two guys who I apparently were friends have this big falling out and
Yes.
but they have to fall back on something as ludicrous as rock, paper, scissors because that's part of their relationship, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's part of their little mini culture
Because
that they have.
when they first said it, I thought it was some kind of like fist fight, right?
Right. Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they're doing rock, paper, scissors for all effective
Hmm.
purposes. Um, and eventually, of course, Cassian escapes with the TIE fighter, um, which then leads to him returning back to Mina Rao in time to save Bix, but Brasso dies, and they have to leave B2 Emo behind.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was a great scene, though. I mean, in terms of you talking about, as you mentioned in previous, there is action in the show, and
Hmm.
when he's using that TIE fighter, that's pretty damn impressive.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Good
All right.
stuff.
Do you want to talk about the wheat planet?
Yeah, well, what else about the wheat planet do you want to talk about? So I've given away the end of the wheat planet, but what about the wheat planet? Wheat planet do we need to
Well,
discuss?
we have to talk about the most controversial scene in Star Wars, don't
Go
we?
ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, the attempted rape.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I heard leading up to it that there was going to be this scene. Oh my God, oh my God. It's
Mm,
such a mind blower or a shocker or whatever sort of superlative you want to attach to it. So it's set up with this really cringy guy who's shows up and is really creeping on Bix
yes.
in a very uncomfortable way, and she's catching on that he's not to be trusted, and then later he shows up again, and there are circumstances where he does try to rape her.
Yes.
And it's stomach churning.
Yes.
I wouldn't say it was a shocker, and it's
No.
yeah, and I think it kind of given the nature of the Andor series up to that point. I mean, it didn't stand out to me the way it did
No.
apparently to some people as something was particularly awful, like versus what? Versus the prison where everyone's working themselves to death, or uh, it was
Right.
awful.
It was awful. I
Yeah,
thought that it was yeah, I don't think I encountered any commentary ahead of time before I saw it. I did
yeah,
hear some people afterwards or read some things about this, only because I guess it's the only time that sexual assault's been portrayed in Star Wars. But a couple of thoughts. I think one, I think it's realistic in the
yeah.
sense of, again, this is what someone with too much power might well do. In fact,
Unsupervised.
yes, we know that it happens in these contexts
Yes.
all the time. Um, I mean, we know what happens in the U.S. with law enforcement, right?
Yeah.
Let alone a circumstance like this where the leverage, because again, the idea was if you don't have the right visa, you're going to get deported off the planet. And
Right.
of course, that's bad enough, but Bix knows if they figure out who she is, then they're all dead
Yeah.
or tortured again, as the case may
Right.
be.
And people who don't have qualms about sexual assault are going to use that.
Oh, absolutely. And then but I would say that it was, I mean, you think about similar kinds of scenes in something like Game of Thrones. This was, I think, less exploitative and more realistic.
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I mean, in Game of Thrones, it was at a point where I was wondering, like, what is, first of all, how is this helping the
Right.
story along?
Right.
And second of all, why is there so goddamn much of it?
Yes.
Uh,
That's
it
right.
for me, it crossed the line.
I
It's
agree.
like, okay, this is really kind of sick. Like if you, show too many torture scenes, like
That's right.
again, like lots of horrible things happen in Andor. The torture scene of Bix, listening
Yes.
to the death screams of alien children is pretty horrible.
Yes.
We don't need to
Yes.
see more torture scenes,
Right.
um, in order to kind of establish that Empire bad, or
Right. Right.
that Bix is this person who is struggling through these really traumatic experiences and still admirably is able to kind of keep it together and make good choices ultimately.
That's right.
um anyway, so that's kind of how I felt about that particular scene. It's powerful, it's good, but I wouldn't say again it was in a class by itself somehow.
No, no, no. I think I don't know. One of the things that is true, and maybe it's the property that elicits these kinds of responses the most. I think, at least in an online environment, Star Wars can generate more emotional responses than maybe any other property that I can think of.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, I thought it was perfectly in keeping with the story that was being told and was absolutely the kind of thing you'd expect from that kind of setup.
Right.
The last thing to talk about in this, well, anything about Minerals you want to talk about that I didn't mention?
Yeah, I mean, I think that to see just decent people getting on with their lives
Hmm.
is, I think an important part of a story like this, that there is something to preserve. Maybe, parts of the galaxy have been ruined. As eventually like Gorman, we see that it's on the road to being completely ruined.
Hmm.
But I think a story like this needs beats like this. Like it can't be constant action. It can't be constant misery. That was one of my problems with Game of Thrones, constant
Hmm.
misery,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
You need kind of just to give your audience a break a little bit too, but also to kind of show people what it is that the characters are fighting for.
Right. I agree. I agree. So speaking of Gorman,
Hmm.
we do see in episode one this conference that Dedra gets invited to, and we see Director Krennic from Rogue One show up for the first time, talking about the planet Gorman and the fact that the Emperor's quote unquote energy project needs calcite from the interior of the planet, and they need to find a way to get this mineral out. Um, and so Dedra sort of hatches this plan of like some kind of internal rebellion to help kind of, for all practical purposes, create a false flag event so that you could clamp down on the planet, which then plays out in multiple episodes throughout the rest of the season. Um, Anything about that conference you wanted to talk about?
Well, we haven't talked about Partagas much,
That's
actually.
true. That's true.
So, uh, well, he's one of the best characters, I think, in the show.
No, he's very impressive. Yeah.
He's an interesting sort of manager. He's sort of professorial in the way that he
Yes.
operates. I mean, it kind of reminded me of the Paper Chase, the old John Houseman movie
Yes.
and TV show. Kind of gets all of his subordinates into a room. He lets them, kind of stick their necks out a bit, in some sort of proposal they're making or a complaint that they're lodging or whatever, and then, kind of knocks them around a bit. Uh, he's almost likable in a
Yeah.
weird
Yeah. He
way.
is. He is.
Yeah, I mean, I think because the actor is somebody I've seen a lot, and I watch British shows, British uh, uh, police procedurals like Endeavour. He was a very sympathetic character, and in that, so maybe I'm a little tainted by that, having a past with this particular actor. But he's fascinating guy because then he's also just very calmly committing all sorts of atrocities every day
Oh
and
yes.
green lighting the terrible actions of his subordinates and allowing their petty rivalries to play out in destructive ways.
Correct. While also kind of acting like a mentor to Dedra,
Yeah,
trying to be almost, giving her career advice and trying to help her along.
yeah. And he's a smart guy who eventually realizes, even someone as smart as him can't navigate the horrible grinding machinery of the empire. Um,
Yes,
anyway, just a terrific character, and
I agree.
Krennic is the closest thing we do have to a mustache twirling villain.
That's true.
He's a good one.
He's a very good one.
Yeah,
I mean, I think he clearly illustrates. I mean, obviously, he's a character brought over from Rogue One, but I think within the purview of Andor, the series, I think
yeah,
he demonstrates how bad you have to be to get toward the very top of this pyramid.
right. Yeah, he's the guy who's not. I certainly have seen this in real life. He's the guy who certainly is making sure that the job gets done,
Yes,
but he's not so interested in the job that he puts himself at risk.
right.
He's always in that position, where he's always looking good, to his superiors. He's always able to keep his underlings down under his thumb. But not like Cyril, who's so consumed, with trying to pursue whatever his mission he thought was, that he doesn't see just exactly that he's about to drive over a cliff.
Right, right. But he has that cape,
He
so
has
you
the
know.
cape and the very tidy uniform.
And his first name is Orson, which just doesn't quite
I
seem.
know.
Mork calling Orson come in. Is that what that was?
Well, and
Okay, anyway.
Partagaz's first name is Leo.
I know
I mean, it's
Leo.
spelled Lio, but it's Leo. So like Orson and Leo hanging out,
Well, yeah, exactly. And there's a scene later, that I think is interesting and also is just good writing. They very subtly suggest that they have a long-term relationship.
hmm
And, Krennic tells Partagas at one point, I can't get you out of this one this time, Leo, or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Um,
The critic is I'm jumping ahead a little bit,
no,
but
go ahead.
since we're talking about him now,
Sure.
that gesture that as you found out was improvised,
Oh,
where
it's just fantastic.
they're interrogating Dedra and he's
Yes.
walking around her and then like he jams his fingers on the top of her skull.
Yes.
This incredibly abusive and dismissive way. Like that
Yes. Yes. But it's
that's
a
one of those moments. You got to be
great
watching.
character moment. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And just credit to again, how you pronounce her name, to the actress who didn't like lose it when he put the
I
finger
know.
to keep the scene going. It was
Yeah.
very but so speaking of Dedra and scenes and maybe another example of fantastic ad-libbing, we also get to see Dedra and Cyril's home life
hmm
when Edie comes over for dinner. That was an amazing bit of television.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So so they're able to maintain this facade, at least, Dedra is able to maintain a particular facade of civility with Edie, who is like the worst relative,
Oh
that
yeah.
we all have. Like there's always like she really eerily reminded me of somebody in my family. But anyway, I think all families, somewhere in the extended family tree, you have somebody like this person, this horribly judgmental, nasty, manipulative, passive aggressive jerk.
Oh yes.
Anyway, and just like when she takes her aside, when Dedra takes her aside,
Yes. Oh yes.
that was great.
Well, Cyril gets him. He can't take it anymore. He can't take
Yes.
all the pressure, and that's when you get to see him laying face down in the bed, which apparently also was an ad lib, which was fantastic.
Uh-huh.
He's
Yeah.
just can't. He's shut down. But then Dedra put. It's the one time you root for the Nazi. Dedra.
Yes.
That's why Edie is the worst character in the entire
If you're
show.
rooting for the Nazi.
But
Yeah.
that scene's great.
Yeah, and this also shows, as we've seen many times in previous episodes, Cyril is really a child.
Yes. Oh yes.
She has a childlike naivete about the world, an
Yes.
insistence on things being done exactly right.
Yes.
He when he comes home, he's under the thumb of his mom. He's eating cereal. It looks
I
like
know. I
it,
know.
it looks like Lucky Charms that he's eating
But with the blue milk.
with the blue milk. Yes. But anyway, you can just again kind of see what sort of I guess childishness is weakness, but it's just he's so oblivious to
Yeah, he is. No, his need for order is quite clear. There's a scene
yeah
where they're setting the table and the fork is like slightly askew and
yeah
he looks like shocked when he sees it. We don't know what he's looking at. And it's
yeah
just and then he looks down and he fixes the plate. I mean,
yeah
I think he's very interesting again in this sort of authoritarian context that he just really craves order. And
yes
so many people are so entranced by the notion that the state can bring order and we could all just be safe and everything will be in its place, that
right
they will follow these kinds of things. I do love the bit though when uh, Dedra tells Edie, Uncle Harlow is basically a criminal, and I would stop talking about Uncle Harlow.
right.
It's fantastic.
What a great way to shut her down.
Yeah, yeah. It's also when we find out that Dedra was raised in the Kinderblock
Yeah.
as an orphan. Um, it's a great character beat. Okay, so episodes 4 through 6 set up the Gorman storyline,
hmm
and we also see some things with Coruscant, and we see some Saw Gerrera getting even more maniacal. But so on, Cassian goes to Gorman undercover.
Right.
We see, what Cyril's doing there. We already saw some, I think, in the previous episodes, but we see this developing rebellion on Gorman, which again, visually and also audially, you can't get over the fact that this is like the French Resistance because this
Right.
planet presents as pretty French.
Yeah. Well, they're French
Um,
actors who are speaking
yeah,
a an invented language
yes.
or just
So,
ad-libbing things. You know.
but Cassian basically says they're not ready, but
Hmm.
Luthen still goes forward, and Vel and Cinta go in to help them with this little heist,
Right.
um, which then helps forward um, the Vedra's plan to make it look like the rebels are active on Gorman.
Hmm.
Um, any thoughts about that part of the story?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where you really, again, you're getting this, and we'll talk about this in a lot in the next episode. But you know, the rebellion is complex, right? These people
Yes.
are not yet formally part of the Rebel Alliance. They are a little bit naive or just inexperienced at
Yes.
what they're doing. They haven't been through as many, kind of many missions as the people in the Luthen network have been. It, again, we talked about Vel and Cinta.
Hmm.
There was a very affecting moment when Cinta gets killed because
Yes.
of somebody doing something stupid.
Yes. The Vel specifically told them not to do.
Right, a 20-something dude doing something stupid.
Amazing. What a thought. Um, so yes. So while they're successful in this operation, although again the Imperials are hoping that they will be, Cinta is killed because of some things that go wrong with it. Um, two other. I don't have a ton to say about that part of the Gorman story because we're going to come
No,
back to
because it's
Gorman.
yeah, because it's setting up the more
Uh,
important Gorman
uh,
story.
I will just, I really only have two beats that I want to point out. One, episode 6, which is called "What a Festive Evening," is a
Hmm.
great Clea story because they
Yeah.
found out that Skulldun, this other Chandrillan, the one that they married the daughter into, that family, has a big collection of artifacts, but he's going to have them checked out because he's found out one of them is a counterfeit, and they put a listening device in one of them, and she's got to get it out during this dinner party, which includes Krennicking around the room.
Hmm.
It was a great scene and a great episode. Any thoughts about that?
Well, since we mentioned Krennic again, one of the things I liked about the casting here, Krennic was, of course, cast for Rogue One, so he
Yes,
was a
Ben Mendelsohn is
carryover.
the actor.
Yeah, but so it's interesting. The actors who played a lot of the Imperial characters, Dedra, Partagaz, Krennic, they reminded me a lot of the sort of actors that you saw in British movies from like the night, like early to mid 1960s.
Hmm.
Again, we're talking about what ancient geeks we are. Some of that, like these actors would show up on the Avengers, the old TV
Hmm.
show with Steed and Mrs. Peel, or they'd show up in Hammer horror movies or
Hmm.
whatever. And there was like a kind of a particular way that they talked and carried
Hmm.
themselves and so forth, with often with like a lot of confidence and so forth. That just like these actors reminded me a lot of those actors of that vintage.
They were
Something.
almost certainly stage trained
Yeah.
in the 60s. I mean, a lot of those actors, in a lot of them should have been Doctor Who too in the other years.
Right. So Michelle Goff, how you pronounce her name.
Hmm.
I'm
Denise,
so sorry. I'm so sorry to the actor. I'm so sorry.
Denise,
I'm
right?
sorry, Denise. Anyway, reminded me of Michael Goff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I actually wondered if they were related. I looked it up. They're not.
Okay.
But there are plenty of people like that from that period. Okay, very distinctive. Carry themselves really well, deliver lines wonderfully, and you could see them kind of plugged in and out of a lot of, as I said,
Hmm.
shows and movies of that vintage. So just like a vibe I got from them. I don't know
I
if
think
anybody else feels that way, but
that's
yeah.
no, I think
All
that's
right,
legitimate.
yeah. But anyway, I did nothing else about the setup for the Gorman story.
And then we also have the Saw Gerrera scene with the Rito gas and his
Yes.
maniacal speech.
Yeah.
Um, after he killed his own guy because he wanted Willman to stay behind.
Right.
I will say that the machine that Willman is working on is amazing.
Yes.
I don't know what he's really supposed to be doing at this point, but it's just amazing while Gurr's constantly going on and on and on about the
Yeah,
rebellion
it's
and
this it's
fighting and
the
the Vito gas and everything.
yeah, it's this fueling device
Yes,
that is so complicated that it's almost its own security system, right?
yes.
It's so complicated that only a few people will ever be able to master it, including all of the different configurations that one might need to use. So, yeah, that was pretty cool, and also like the you find out like why Saw Gerrera is kind of so physically messed up.
Yes.
That was also kind of an interesting moment.
I will say this in case I forget to say it in the next episode, but Andor, the TV show,
Mhm.
made the Saw Gerrera character in Rogue One make so much more sense
Oh yeah,
than he
absolutely.
did in the movie because he really isn't
Yeah.
in the movie that long.
Well, you see in the movie and you think, wow, this guy must be really just battle scarred. Look at just how,
Right.
many parts of his body have been replaced and he's got this respirator and so forth. But, he's a drug addict.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
He's hooked on something that's eating his body.
I mean, Forrest Whitaker's a great actor, so just seeing
Yeah.
him anytime is great. But he's really good in this show. So anything about seven? Excuse me, four through six that I'm missing that you really wanted to hit
No, I
on?
think I think that does it.
So let's do seven through nine, which is really, in some ways, this is the climax and the next part's the denouement in some ways. But I mean, this is the Gorman massacre, and then eventually in the extraction of Mon Mothma from Coruscant in episode nine.
Mhm.
But seven and eight is uh, Cassian going back to Gorman, um, and then in episode eight is the massacre itself.
Mhm.
I will point out before we talk about the massacre, this is the first time in episode seven, I think, that the Force is mentioned in this TV series.
Mhm.
When they're on Yavin and the Force healer has this sort of prophecy about Cassian, which affects Bix directly.
Mhm.
But I thought that was what. Did you have any thoughts about that? Did you
Oh
like it? Did you
yeah,
not like it? What,
I thought it was fine.
yeah,
Again, I don't, I didn't need to see Jedi.
right.
It was interesting to see the Force introduced in a different way than we've seen in
Yes,
Star Wars movies before, as it was in Rogue One, and kind of restored some of the mysteriousness of the Force
yes,
to it.
I agree.
Post midichlorians.
Good Lord. Um, I'll refrain from ranting about midichlorians. No, I really like the idea of the Force being this sort of metaphysical, mystical, magical, maybe quasi-religious thing that
Hmm.
some people.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what Han Solo says in Star Wars, or that um, Grand Moff Tarkin calls it, or somebody calls it that religion, your ancient religion. I think it's
Yeah.
just one of the guys that gets choked, but
Yep.
right. But that notion that it's this thing that maybe people believe and maybe they don't,
Hmm.
instead of this, all-encompassing thing, is I think was good.
Yeah, and it wasn't a major part of the
Oh
story.
no, no, no.
It was a nice little tidbit that they threw in, but it didn't interfere with the story. It didn't feel forced. It didn't change anything about the nature of the show, so I think it was just fine.
So Cassian's supposed to go take out Deidre Mira. That's his job,
Yeah,
which goes south. But I did love again in the spy novel, spy movie genre, his whole getting into the hotel, getting his weapon,
right.
sort of trying to figure all that out.
Oh, the clerk who knows him, that was
Yeah,
really
the
good.
clerk, that was good. That was
Yeah,
very good.
that the subtle communication that they're having in that
That was
conversation.
really good. And when he tells him that he can report him later, that was pretty good.
Hmm.
But also this sort of up the oppressive authoritarian presence, and we're supposed to log everybody in and all this kind of stuff. Um, and then, of course, in episode eight, we have the locals who think they're going to like engage in this protest, and that in fact, they think they're getting what they want because they're opening up the
Hmm.
square, and they all
Right.
stream in, and it's again, it's a trap.
Hmm.
And but the way that was staged, the way it was blocked, the way it was set up was, I thought, extremely well done. and
Yes.
narratively satisfying. And the way in which it's set off because they fire on their own people, right? They put the
Hmm.
inexperienced people, which is was brilliant, right? You put this
Yes.
inexperienced bit of troops into the field, then you get one of them shot by one of your sharpshooters, and this creates the entire chaos and conflagration that happens in the square. Um, and I'll also say, and I'll let you say what you want to say about it. The KX droids are terrifying,
Yeah.
and the way they're deployed in the scene.
Hmm.
But what did you think about this scene?
Well, this is almost like what the whole series has been building up to.
Right,
We talked about all these great speeches, exciting action scenes, emotionally moving moments, but these are like the little Lego blocks putting together the entire structure of the empire and its oppression.
hmm
Um, and you have the Gorman resistance there, which
Yes,
is very conflicted. The one of the
yes,
leaders is somebody who's really pushing for nonviolent resistance.
right,
That not don't give the empire what it wants by pulling out a bunch of guns, which of course is a difficult thing to do when people are looking to do violence to you,
right.
to try to get a group of people to be nonviolent. Um, so it's leading up to this moment where it seems like there are no good choices. As you mentioned, it's brilliantly executed from a filmmaking standpoint.
Yes, absolutely.
It's I think saying it's well blocked doesn't do it justice. I mean, I think you have this chaotic scene and you know exactly where everybody is and exactly what's going on in it,
That's
which is
right.
a very tough thing to do. What the Imperials are doing, what different, groups of the Imperials, the conscripts, the stormtroopers, the guy who's in tactical command there, Deidre, all the rebels, Cassian, and so forth. Oh, well, I mentioned, to mention Cyril, who plays a big part in
Yes,
this particular scene. And then, this is also part and parcel in the same episode of the great confrontation between Cyril and Deidre,
hmm
another one of the best scenes in the whole show, which I think this was all building up to, that their weird relationship, kind of all the flaws in that comes boiling out.
yes,
And it's almost like two different people who have done a lot to help construct um, the edifice of evil here in the galaxy, kind of clashing with one another because they didn't necessarily come at this project from the same direction. Um, anyway, it was just everything about this, I think, was just sort of a culmination of everything that has come before. It is absolutely brilliant filmmaking, absolutely brilliant writing. The acting is terrific in it. When Cyril finally loses it, both with Andor and with Deidre, the guy's a really good actor. Those
Oh
and
yeah, very
yeah,
impressive.
yeah,
So to your point, right? I was thinking. So I mean, granted, we spend multiple episodes, kind of like with Ferrex, where
yeah,
they had a very well constructed physical space that we learn
yeah.
over a series of episodes. Likewise with Gorman, and but even in this couple sets of episodes, just the square, you get an idea where the hotel is versus where the
Hmm.
Imperial headquarters is. You're really taught the terrain before the massacre takes place.
Right.
I think that's just
Great point.
just well done filmmaking and well done sort of planning. And then let's talk about Cyril. So yeah, there's the scene where he confronts Dedra in the office. Do you think, and it's a great scene, do you think he was more upset that had realized he'd been used as a pawn in this, or because he'd gone native? What was your impression?
I think both are right. I mean,
Okay.
I think that he certainly felt betrayal, again, the guy is an overgrown child,
Yes.
at being played, and being kept in the dark about what was really going on Gorman. I think he did, kind of come, he worked with, was
hmm
working as a double agent, with the Gorman people and was a little bit mortified at what the Empire was planning. I think when he said, the mining machines are in orbit, there's an armada out there. I mean,
Right.
that seemed like, he was genuinely
Hmm.
outraged.
Yeah.
Um, and just that scene is so good.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah, and like also like one of the things, like Denise, I now got her name right. Uh,
Denise G.
Denise G does in that scene where she tries to come at him from every angle, like, oh,
Yeah.
this is what we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
what all our work has been for. Life's going to be great, and then kind of like tries to prod him with, you didn't mind the promotions, and like nothing seems to work on him.
Right. That's true.
His rage is absolute at this moment.
I kind of believe that she did think they could get out of it and go be all happy together in their own
Yeah.
weird,
Oh,
perverse
I
way.
think, yeah.
I think, but yeah, the dig about the promotions was pretty searing.
Yeah. Yeah, and when he goes into berserker mode
Yeah.
later,
Yeah.
with Andor,
Oh, that's just
you could
great.
really see that that's his continued rage was so part of that, and then here is the focus of what's been the focus of his rage before, now standing right there.
He tasks me. He tasks me, and I shall have him. Sorry. But yeah, his white whale is there, right? It's he's been after Andor from episode one.
Yes.
And that's what really got him into all this in the first place. And when he sees him, it's just fantastic. It's fantastic. He does go into berserker rage. You can believe that even though he's obviously not as skilled a fighter as Andor, that the adrenaline would really kick in at this moment.
Yeah.
And of course, how brilliant is who are you?
Right. Yes.
Just and
Because like all everything that's led up to this with Cyril, right? So,
yeah.
the botched operation on Ferrex,
Hmm.
taking the crappy office job,
Yes.
uh, you know,
Living with his mom.
living with his mom, stalking Deidre, Dedra. Eventually it seems like he's got a good life. And then, kind of put into this situation where it's practically his dream job to do something really important. And then to
Yes,
find out
that's
that
right.
all that really was just, a joke. And nothing and no one is what he thought it was. Uh,
That's right.
that is just great character development, I have to
Oh,
say.
I was going to say, I do think the fact that his hair grew out was part of him. He'd gone native. He was looking more like
Yeah,
Gorman than
looking more French.
looking
I
more
mean
French.
Gorman.
Um, but yeah, that was good stuff.
Yeah, we'll talk about the French Resistance in the next episode.
Yes. So, and then of course, this all culminates with one thing I did like about this too is there's all the false media about what's going on,
Yeah,
and the way in which they're, the Gorman think that the galaxy sees us. We're being oppressed.
right.
When in fact, the way the imperial media is projecting
Hmm.
it is that they're attacking.
Right. The slow buildup over years of,
Yes,
trying to position the people of Gorman as just these insolent, ungrateful, uh, pseudo rebels. There's an actual rebellion, but there's also these people who are just like a pain in the ass.
yes, yes,
Just continuing to kind of make the hues of hatred even darker on the
yes.
official imperial media. That was also excellent.
It was great. So then we get episode nine, which is Welcome to the Rebellion, which is basically Mon Mothma's speech to the Senate, and then Cassian extracting her
Hmm.
from Coruscant to take her back to Yavin.
Yeah.
Um, and I, well, where do you want to start with that? Where would you like
Well,
to
it was an
start?
exciting scene. I mean,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and we're seeing the collapse of the kind of the Republican order that we saw at the beginning of the first Star Wars movie.
yes,
When they talk about the Senate being dissolved, it's again like we see one line crossed after another. In this case, it's a senator being carried off. We see that. And was it in that episode or a previous one?
yeah. The Gorman senator gets arrested. Either
Yeah,
I can't. I think it may have been in this episode, but I can't recall.
you
Yeah,
know,
it
with
happens right around in here.
yeah,
I'm pretty
which
sure it's this episode because they're really all dealing. This is like hours after this has happened on Gorman, if I understand properly.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
maybe a day, but it's very close. And a lot of the Senate is on the emperor's side on this. In fact, there's some
all
speeches
right,
denouncing the Gormans, and then there's the whole bit of again the poli sci nerds in us where Bail Organa uses parliamentary procedure to give Mon
yeah,
Mothma the chance to make this speech. Um, One thing I will note, and it's something another observation somebody else made, and I cannot remember if it was the guys on the Watch podcast or were the guys on Decoding TV, but it was a great point, which is they recast Bail Organa for this episode, right, or
hmm
this series, because I guess I don't know why, but Jimmy Smith was not apparently available for the job, so they got Benjamin Bratt to do it. He did a great job. But it's the point that I would make, which is a movie making point or a TV making point, is you can recast people and that's okay,
right,
right?
yes,
You don't
it's
have to have it.
fine,
You don't have to have a CGI recreation of Grand Moff Tarkin, as we'll talk about in the next movie or episode or whatever the case may be. You can just recast somebody. That's okay.
right,
Anyway,
yeah.
but it's a very
Her
exciting.
speech was good. It wasn't my favorite speech.
No,
It
I
has
was
an
going to say the same thing.
yeah, it has an important message, about you know, about the centrality of truth, in a good society, and how a
Yes.
bad society is where you can't believe anything that you hear or see. That's an old message. I think that goes
Yes.
all the way back to Saint Augustine, who thought that was like one of the cardinal sins was lying, because then the world is an impossible place to decipher, and you don't know what the right thing to do is.
What is truth, man?
Yeah.
Um, Anything else about episode 9 you want to talk about?
No, I mean it was a caper movie, sorry, a
Yeah,
caper episode of sorts
yeah.
about getting them out. Some very exciting moments in it. Yeah, and also too, like again, how much has been transgressed by the Empire at this point with
Yes,
this
yes,
hit team in place.
yes.
Yeah, that really isn't how people in imperial security should work, but
Right.
that's the new reality. That
That's
was
right.
good. Yeah.
It was. So the next several episodes take place a year later. We find that Lonnie, the ISB guy, tells Luthen about this weapon they're building. So we know that, of
Mhm.
course, this is the Death Star. We hear words that we know are going to be relevant in Rogue One, which are Jedha, Kyber, and Urso.
Right.
And Luthen, as one might expect, Lonnie wants out, but time is now of the essence.
hmm
Um, and in fact, he was able to log into Dedra's files where she found something that had been sent to her by accident, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah. Just how much of history is accident?
yes, Luthen has to kill Lonnie, and then they decide they've got to get out,
Right.
and he starts to melt all their equipment, and then Dedra shows up because she's figured out who Axis is,
Right.
and she has but she monologues, which again, bad guys out there, aspiring bad guys,
Yeah. Don't do
don't
that.
monologue.
Right.
But it's a great
But
scene.
but
Go
this is
ahead.
totally consistent with her, right? So
Oh, absolutely,
she's
absolutely.
been going off the grid with a lot of her actions, in a way that's almost Cyril-like, right?
Yes,
The two of them really are kind of a couple, in that they have this obsessive need to just kind of do whatever it is they think is necessary, even though their superiors aren't sanctioning it.
they both have their
Uh,
obsessions.
yeah, and so here, like, she has to walk in alone. She has to
Yes,
have the monologue with him, has to give him a chance to stab himself.
yeah,
Waits too long, so that's that much more damage done to
yes,
the rebel Radio Shack equipment that
yes.
he has to to communicate. Um, anyway, so that was all consistent with her, and it is the fact that she gets into trouble for it is, I think
Oh, it makes perfect sense.
perfect sense.
I then he's taken to the hospital, but he's
Yeah,
still alive. He's still alive at that point. I will admit,
barely.
for all of Luthen's genius, he should have had a better suicide plan.
Yeah, I wondered about that. Like, why don't you have just like a bomb in the shop?
Yeah, the bomb in
Yeah,
the shop would have been good. Because the only person gets to melt the Radio Shack equipment before they show up.
right. So they're able to act. So the Empire is actually able to
Access
recover
some of
some
it
of it.
later.
Yeah.
But all of this leads to a fantastic. We get a couple of things in this episode, right? This is almost, I don't know if even Cassian's in this episode, but we get flashbacks to him and Clea. We
Hmm.
get basically their origin story, which I think is a testament to the show that at this moment in time, with all that's going on, that was still well done, and I thought worked. I don't know if you did or not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, there's the whole Clea infiltrates the hospital and makes sure that
Hmm.
Luthen is dead.
Right.
Both of which are very powerful stories. Um, Clea ends up being, for a character that at first I thought was very minor, she ends up being quite an impressive character.
Oh, yeah.
Well written,
Yeah.
well acted.
Yeah. That
There
was
were,
exactly what I was going to say. She's just his assistant. They have knowing glances every
yes.
once in a while in the first season, or they're talking, kind of in very dense language with a lot of context about
Hmm.
things that they're planning to do, or like whether what to do about Andor. But she does seem like a very minor character, and by now she's a very capable person with a very interesting relationship with Luthen that we find out about through the flashbacks, and is believably shaken by what happened.
Yes. Yes.
Again, it was very deft. They got through a lot of exposition about her that explained a lot about her character that we had seen hints of before, but
Yes.
anyway, but not too much, right? So and then when you got to the point where she has to turn off his life support,
Hmm.
and then you see her back at the safe house, just really kind of almost shaking
Yes.
with shock and grief and fear. And anyway, it just works.
Absolutely works.
Yeah,
The flashbacks, the things that struck me, I love that, man. There's various times, right? There's the one where she haggles the price, which was
yeah,
really great, but she sees this public execution, which was very affecting, and then the scene on Naboo where
hmm,
where basically Luthen does a terrorism,
yeah,
and it's just an interesting sort of development of these characters and what they're doing. I didn't mark down what episode this was from. It was earlier in this. I'm not even sure which season it's in. But Vel shows up at the shop unannounced,
hmm,
and
yeah,
this is, I think, when Claire started really like, okay, you're a badass
hmm,
and significant. And Vel says, "What have you done for him lately?" And she says, "I don't
right,
have lately. I have always." And has her
right,
own little speech about the constant blur of plates spinning and knives on the floor
hmm,
and needy panicked faces at the window. It's a great. There's some great dialogue in this show. Um, anyway. And then so she's in the safe house, as you say, and she, again, in spy movie fashion, pulls out pieces of a radio from various
hmm,
parts of the wall and the air conditioning ducts and contacts the rebels. But because also, as you pointed out,
hmm,
the Radio Shack kit in the antiques shop was not totally damaged. They were able to listen in and pinpoint the location of the safe house.
yeah,
But But Cassian and Melshi and K2SO show up to rescue her. She doesn't want to go at first, but there's a
hmm.
great scene. And my God, K2XO, SSO kicks some serious ass in this.
No kidding. Yeah,
It's something else.
yeah, and hats off to Alan Tudyk,
Oh, he's great.
one of my favorite actors in all the geek productions these days.
No, he's fantastic. And he's great as
Yeah,
K2SO.
yeah.
Following orders. Anyway,
But it also too, like the show does so much with just again so little effort, and
yes.
so without overdoing it. Like the team that's going in to catch them in the safe house,
Mm-hmm.
um, the big guy who's
Mm-hmm.
the leader of the team,
Yes.
scary guy,
Yes.
right? And in sort of almost like the way that like Darth Vader was scary from the first scene that you see him in.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Yes.
don't have
Yes.
to like overdo it. He didn't have to like you know kick a puppy or anything to establish, ugh, this is one scary dude.
So yes. Um, of course, in all this, and I think it's already happened at this point, Bix has left.
Yeah.
She's decided that she needs to not be the reason Cassian quits fighting.
Hmm.
Um, but they get Clea back to Yavin 4, and they bring this intelligence back about the Death Star. But of course, all the politicians are fighting over whether it's useful or not. There's an interesting bit of discussion about Luthen, and a lot of people not really. We know as an audience what Luthen has done, and Cassian knows, and Vel knows, but they don't all understand. And
Right.
and it's an interesting sort of, again, the nature of these rebellions and who gets credit and who doesn't.
Yeah.
Who lives, who dies, who tells your story. Anyway,
And when they die.
yes,
So this is where it really does seem tonally different from Star Wars.
yes,
So you have people who die, like in the original Star Wars movie, Obi-Wan Kenobi dies at a certain
yes,
point,
yes.
but
What?
but
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, spoiler alert. But here you have like early, relatively early in the sort of like end game of the series, you have Cyril die,
Yes,
and just sort of suddenly, right? But
right.
he's in the middle of the Gorman massacres, so it's not surprising that somebody takes a shot at him, particularly, somebody who sees him threatening Andor. You have Luthen die.
Hmm.
Eventually, you also have Bix who doesn't die, but goes out of the picture. At no point is there any sort of ham-handed effort to kind of bring them back into the end.
Right, right,
You
right.
know, there's no like, oh, well, I was just pretending to be dead, or oh, well, Bix was just kidding about, leaving. She comes back and is there to support Andor in the very end.
Surprise. Yeah,
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 I just like that whenever that sort of thing happens, it works 10% of the time, like with Han Solo coming back at,
yeah, yeah.
the final Death Star battle, but most of the time it just seems forced. You write people out when it's the right time for them to go.
That's right. That's right. Um, I totally agree with that. It is striking because you mentioned the timing, right? This is literally, I don't know, I sit and think about exactly how much, but this is like what, a couple of weeks away from the Battle of Yavin?
Yeah,
It's like all happening right leading up to Star Wars.
right.
Um, so let's talk about, unless there's something else about the extraction of Clea or what's going on in Yavin you want to talk about. Like, let's go down. There is this scene where Cassian's walking to his ship, and we know that this is going to lead directly into Rogue One.
Right.
But we see what happened to certain characters. Like Dedra is on Narkina 5,
Yeah.
which was, I think, a perfect visual. Didn't take much to know what
Yeah.
happened to her.
Which
This,
made sense. We keep saying that, but like
yeah.
everything falls into place in incredible ways.
And then there's the whole scene with Partagas is, and I forget the guy's name. The bald guy comes in and tells him that they're here for him, but you
Oh
can
yeah.
collect your thoughts. And it's a great scene. You know what's going to happen. And what else could you do if you're Partagas at that point?
Right.
And
Who's listening to the rebel propagandists
yes,
manifesto.
yes, he's listening to
That
Nemec's
that that was
manifesto.
great. Like it
That
just
was
like
very
suddenly
good.
realizing like, yeah, that's right. He's onto something here. Like he's living this and he doesn't realize
Yeah.
that oppression takes constant effort.
And it's such a great scene when they hear the blaster bolt and the two stormtroopers start to move forward, and the one guy just
Yeah.
goes, puts his
Yeah.
hand up.
Supervisor Lagret.
That's the
I
one.
have it in my notes here.
Oh, so
Yeah,
many
that
names.
was so good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And then we see Bix with a baby, which
Yeah.
Cassian Jr. or Bix Jr.,
Yeah.
I'm not sure which. And again, I've never been so glad to see at least know what happened to a droid in my entire life. At least
Yeah.
B2EMO is still okay on Mina Rao.
Yeah. 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 The puppy's okay.
The puppy's okay.
Well, I also like
Um,
that Clea, was now, kind of part of the,
yes.
the Yavin group, but
Yeah.
she's uncomfortable with it, right? She's,
Yes.
it's, yeah, there's that nice scene with her and Vel,
Yes.
kind of establishing, no, no, you're really welcome here. I mean, because there's this huge distrust that's been
Oh,
between
yes.
the Mon Mothma group, I guess you'd call it, and the Luthian group.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that's interesting about this show is that it's often the case in these genre-based, well, really not just genre, really. It's often the case in pop culture. They're the good guys and they're the bad guys. And if you're whatever
Hmm.
team you're
Yeah,
on, you're totally accepted by that team because oh,
right.
you're on our team. So, but that's life's not is complicated. There's also the great scene of Perrin, which I think he's having an affair with his in-law's wife. But
Yeah.
anyway, he looks dejected and whatnot. But so we am I forgetting anybody else that
Well,
we
he's
gotta?
such a nothing.
Oh, he's a total nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, he's such just like a silk handkerchief of a man.
There you go. That works. That works. Okay. Anything else that we want to talk about that I left out about seasons one and two of?
No, that's plenty. I mean, it was a very satisfying conclusion,
Yeah, it
and
was. No, I
uh,
mean you almost could stop there and you don't need to keep going. But
right, and it wasn't a satisfying conclusion because it cleverly fit into the next movie.
right.
It was a satisfying conclusion because, having been invested through 24 episodes of the show, the characters came to places you could understand. It told the story that it wanted to tell. It hit on the important themes that it felt like it needed people to think about. It was just fine. Yeah,
it was narratively satisfying in a
yeah,
way that TV often isn't.
right,
Endings are hard, right?
right. How many TV shows have ended badly?
A lot.
Battlestar Galactica,
Yeah.
Lost, The X-Files, which just kind of like fizzled out.
Star Trek Voyager's not that great an ending.
No, no. I mean, landing and ending is hard. I would imagine, particularly given something that involved so much money, so many
Yes.
actors,
Yes.
so many plots, so many characters, locations, everything to kind of bring that together as neatly as it did. That's quite an achievement.
Yep. I think we'll talk a little bit more about that in our next part. And I know this
Yeah.
episode has been a long one, so we thank the listeners for hanging in with us.
Oh
But
yeah.
we will hold off on the merch question until the end of part two,
Yes.
and we
Until I
will.
get my merch, and then I'll reveal it what it is.
They even better, even better. Um, on that note, we will conclude this episode of Ancient Geeks. Thank you all for listening.
Who's that knocking on my door? Why, it's the ISB. So we better get going. That brings us to a close for this episode of Ancient Geeks. Thanks for listening. You can find us on the podcast platform or app of your choice, or if you feel like leaving us a review, we'd be grateful because we love the feedback. Also, please subscribe, and even better, tell a friend. If you have some words for us, kind or otherwise, contact us directly at someancientgeeks@gmail.com. And look for us on Reddit, Facebook, Blue Sky, and other social media outlets. All content copyright 2025, Tom Grant and Stephen Taylor. Music by Reversed Image, whom you can find on Pixabay. See you next time.